Good morning, fellow historians. Here we are, it's August 2nd, 2024. And if you just landed on this video, the purpose of this channel is to record history for future generations. And the way we do that is I upload a daily snippet of the local news here in the New York City metropolitan area. I listen to 1010 Wins every day on my way to work. And a couple of years ago, I decided to upload my commute with the news that's playing on the radio. And the reason is I want folks from future generations to look back on these videos and just kind of get a glimpse of what was going on back in the day, 20, 30, 40 years ago. I enjoy listening and watching YouTube videos, like say people who recorded anything with their big camcorders in the early 80s, I believe. But I'm just waiting till 7 o'clock so I can start with the headline news, 7 a.m. So anyone that subscribes, you guys will be my historians. You guys will be historians on the Documenting History channel. So we're here on Trenton Avenue in the Lakeview section of Paterson, New Jersey. And soon as the headline news start, we're going to start the commute. Just a few more seconds. And we're going to be going east. So you might get some glare. Make sure to put on your historian sunglasses. And I do apologize if we get glare when I start heading east. And here we go.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
More people get their news from 1010 Wins than from any other radio station in the nation. Gary Souter, our service aide. Walter Geis, our senior writer. Jim Maloney, editor's desk. I'm Scott Stanford.
All news, all the time. This is 1010 Wins at 92.3 FM, New York.
Good morning, 81 degrees. It is 7 o'clock on this Friday, August 2nd. I'm Susan Richard. Here's what's happening. One cop out of the hospital, the other expected to be released today. That's after they were both shot on the Lower East Side. Our Glenn Schuck with the story, saying this.
I don't buy this idea that you're not going to let these people rot in jail because other people may be captured.
President Biden and Vice President Harris both on hand to welcome back the Americans freed as part of a multi-nation prisoner exchange with Russia. As we await Kamala Harris's choice of a running mate, Donald Trump doubling down on the comments about her race and heading to the Hamptons for a fundraiser. Some new research on the benefits of fish oil for older adults and how a daily smooch could renew your relationship. Our fun story Friday coming up. In sports, more medals for Simone Biles and Katie Ledecky at the Summer Olympics in Paris. Your forecast? Still
all right, we're going into the glare.
Sticky day, thunderstorms as well. We'll check in with AccuWeather in about 2 minutes. First at 7:01, let's get traffic and transit from Karen Stewart.
Believe it or not, that construction in the Bronx on the northbound New England Thruway is gone. Yeah, the road work between the Throckneck Expressway and the Hutchinson River Parkway has finally been picked up pretty much completely. They're still out there working on little dribs and drabs of it, but for the most part, we're in much better shape. The wheels are turning. Now you'll get through there in no time, as opposed to the Bronx River Parkway, which southbound is jammed from Little Yemen right around the Bronx Zoo down into the Cross Bronx. At 95, there is an accident. It blocks the ramp to the Sheridan completely. Over on Queens on the BQE eastbound near the LIE, we've got an accident in the left and centers. Forget about the eastbound delay. There's hardly anything there. It's westbound that we are very slow. Traveling from Queens Boulevard to the Kosciuszko Bridge, we're not jammed, but we are very, very delayed there. And it's backing up the westbound side of the LIE too, from Morris Avenue into the BQE going westbound. It looks like we've got a northbound Van Wyck crash right before the LIE. Travel delays go back almost to the Kew Gardens interchange, and it's almost bumper to bumper for that entire ride. Mass transit looks great, and it's 15 minutes inbound at the Hudson River crossings. Odyssey Lottery recap is now presented by Jackpocket. Powerball's 171 million, Mega's 358 million. Order official state lottery games on your phone. Must be 18 or older to play. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and needs help, call 877-8-HOPE-NY. From the Farmers Dog Traffic Center, fresh human-grade dog food delivered right to your door. I'm Karen Stewart, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM.
2 city cops shot and wounded while making an arrest on the Lower East Side.
Both wounded cops taken here to Bellevue. With his pregnant wife at his side, 34-year-old Sergeant Christopher Leap discharged about 9 last night. Hundreds of cops cheering him on. 43-year-old Sergeant Carl Johnson held for observation overnight. He'll be released later today. The NYPD Chief of Detectives, Joe Kenny, explaining how the cops responded to robberies in the Lower East Side and came upon 22-year-old Joshua Dorsett.
He begins to pull a loaded firearm out of his front pants pocket. A struggle begins for the possession of the gun between Dorsett and the two sergeants, and a shot is fired by the perpetrator, Dorsett. One sergeant is struck in the groin. One sergeant is struck in the left leg. We have one bullet that hit both cops.
Dorsett, a known gang member on probation. In fact, he had just met with his parole officer Thursday morning. Glenn Shuck, 1010 wins, 92.3 FM at Bellevue.
More heat and humidity and what could be a messy evening rush. Let's get all the details from AccuWeather and Joe Lundberg.
Already in the low 80s at this hour with sunshine, Susan, and it is going to be another steamy day today with sun and some clouds and a high temperature up to 91 with real feels upper 90s to near 100. There can be some gusty thunderstorms, though, especially during the afternoon and evening hours, any of which can produce downpours and those gusty winds, but it's really not going to offer any real relief from the heat and especially the humidity. Temperatures are right back in the upper 80s tomorrow with another round of heavy thunderstorms likely in the afternoon and evening. That should bring the temperatures down a little bit for Sunday, but guess what? It could be in the upper 80s to near 90 again on Monday. The complete 4-day forecast is minutes away on New York's weather station 1010 Winds on 92.3 FM.
With the heat advisory in effect, the city's new protocol for deploying lifeguards facing its first test.
66 lifeguards will not be in their chairs, but they will be on standby at beaches for 2 hours after they close till 8. 6 people have drowned at city beaches this summer.
That is unfortunate, and that's why we haven't brought nieces and nephews to the beach, just us, and then I still stay a little bit further in.
Says Tamiko Beckwith, who thinks beaches in the city should be open later than 6. Parks Commissioner Sue Donahue says just because there are those extra lifeguards,
this is not to encourage more swimming. It's to make sure that if people are out on the beaches, if they decide to go into the water, that we have an emergency crew of individuals.
Mac Rosenberg, 1010 Winds on 92.3 FM at Orchard Beach.
The Americans newly freed from Russia are now at the Brooke Army Medical Center in San Antonio, Texas to get medically checked out. That's protocol for wrongfully detained Americans who return home. In fact, WNBA player Brittany Griner also went to that center right after she was released from Russian detention in December 2022. Last night at Joint Base Andrews. That was the sound of their arrival back on U.S. soil in what was a landmark prisoner exchange with Russia. Both President Biden and Vice President Harris were on hand to greet journalist Evan Gershkovich, corporate security executive Paul Whelan, Alsu Kromasheva, a journalist with dual U.S.-Russia citizenship, and Kremlin critic and Pulitzer Prize-winning author Vladimir Kara-Murza. Well, President Biden says U.S. allies were also involved in the deal that took years of back-channel negotiations.
Toughest call on this one for other countries, because they're asking to do some things that were against their immediate self-interest, and really very difficult for them to do, particularly Germany and Slovenia. Slovenia came in at the last minute, and I tell you what, the chancellor was incredible. He was incredible.
Paul Whelan telling reporters,
looking forward to seeing my family down here and just recuperating from 5 years, 7 months, and 5 days of just absolute nonsense by the Russian government. I had thousands and thousands of letters and cards coming in. So many that the FSB stopped giving them to me. But yeah, there were people all over the world, and they were sending in small amounts of money in their letters. There was just tons and tons of support. You couldn't believe it.
The swap involved 24 people, including journalists and political dissidents, suspected spies, a computer hacker, and one man convicted of murder. On the campaign trail, Donald Trump heads to the Hamptons this weekend for a fundraiser hosted by Cantor Fitzgerald CEO Howard Lutnick, the former president, and J.D. Vance, to hold a rally tomorrow in Atlanta. This as they both refuse to back off comments regarding Vice President Kamala Harris being of both Indian and Jamaican descent.
Facing growing backlash, former President Donald Trump doubling down, challenging challenging Vice President Kamala Harris's racial identity.
The American people deserve better.
Harris is both the first black woman and the first Asian American to serve as vice president. She graduated from Howard University, and when she was elected senator, she joined the Congressional Black Caucus.
Kamala Harris is a chameleon.
Trump's running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, defending Trump's comments.
That's Rachel Scott. The Harris campaign says her political operation raised a record $310 million in July and has $377 million in cash on hand. The vice president begins a swing state tour next week with her running mate, although she's yet to say who that's going to be. Second gentleman Doug Emhoff is heading to Fire Island. He will attend a Harris Victory Fund event alongside Chasten Buttigieg, the husband of Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. The United States formally takes sides in the election battle in Venezuela.
The U.S. government has recognized Venezuelan opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez as the winner of the South American country's presidential election, discrediting the results announced by electoral authorities who declared President Nicolas Maduro the victor. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says there's overwhelming evidence that Gonzalez won the most votes in the July 28th contest. A Brazilian government official says officials from his country, Colombia, and Mexico have asked Maduro's administration to show the vote tally sheets from Sunday's election and allow impartial verification. I'm Norman Hall.
Another snapshot of the economy today when last month's jobs report comes out.
The Labor Department's July employment report is expected to portray a less robust job market. Bankrate.com senior economic analyst Mark Hamrick.
Payrolls are seen rising by fewer than 200,000 jobs, the consensus among some economists around 180,000, and the unemployment rate is seen remaining unchanged at 4.1%.
Hamrick says if new hires are as expected, it would be the second sub 200,000 payrolls number this year.
That's correspondent Jennifer Kuiper. More in Bloomberg Money Watch at 7:26. Hey, do you take fish oil?
All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Driving in the News for the Documenting History channel. We'll see you on the next episode.